I've been thinking a lot about everything that has been happening. If you keep up with current events and the media sphere, there are two sides. And if you're on the one side, you'll know what is going on. The only thing I can come back to is some external influence. And it has to be destroy our country by causing us to destroy ourselves. You look at all the movements and the things that have happened recently in the separation, the partisanship, one side and the other side. Used to be two kind of like opposing overall viewpoints on topics and issues. Now it's like a movie where there's two factions or two sides at war. Like one side is actively trying to destroy the other one, while the other one is just trying to tell the truth about the other one. That's why they're trying to destroy them. And if you look at it, it is not very far-fetched at all. Actually, very possible, plausible, likely explanation. It's creating racial division, the main theme. You're already raising every person who's been, their ancestors were in slavery. So as someone who's not of that group myself, I felt absolute, like, just miserable for thinking about people and seeing different movies and depictions and reading books and stories and things through history, pictures, and just all the movies and my imagination. Like, it's so fucked up. And then growing up, thinking about, man, dude, it has to be like, no matter what you do with your mentality, no matter how like far forward progressed and enlightened the world comes, if you're part of a group who your ancestors were enslaved by that other group, as a human being, we can't help but know and notice we have different cultures, different human beings with different attributes from different regions. One region enslaved the other. These are my ancestors, these are your ancestors. Almost if you think like, well, there's an American and someone who's British and they're best friends, but it's like the British guy still can't help but know that your great-great-great-grandparents or whoever killed my great-great-great-grandparents, or vice versa. So I can understand why there would be like perpetual animosity of one group that was enslaved by another. But the current day people, I've never owned any slaves. I'm not a whip cracker. I've never owned a plantation. I wouldn't want to. That's the most insane thing I could imagine. Fucking enslaving people. I mean, there's two types of people in the world. Good people and not good people. You either are good or you aren't. People who aren't would be fine with slavery. They would have slaves. If they didn't have slaves, they wouldn't care. The other group of, there's only two in the world, people who aren't good and people who are good, if you want to just categorize it. The people who are good would be defined by the fact that they would never, ever own slaves. You can find people from every group, every culture, every region, if you want to say race, and not consider human race one race, you say the different ethnicities are, I mean, it's not a race of people as far as I know the definition. It shouldn't be called that. Everything is so, they keep saying black and white, and this is my point. Everything is perpetuated still to emphasize it and like color the picture brightly and like just to like not just saying what happened, but really, I don't know. It's like this animosity. How can, I mean, it's just strange. There are still people who have that old mentality on both sides. The days of slavery and the dynamic between black people and white people, if you want to call it that, there is no such thing as a black person, and there is no such thing as a white person. Those terms are stupid and should never be used, just like we don't use certain other words. It's just not cool. Every person has pigmentation in their skin. Even if you don't have any, you're still not, you can't be, there's no such thing as white or black skin. If your skin is literally black, black is not a color. White is not a color. They want to talk about the different colors of skin, but then they say it's a race, but there's the human race, and then they say we're all human, we're all the same, but then they emphasize, they being whoever, just general. There's a lot of people who do this in media and all this. They want to generalize it, but then they want to boil it down to definitive, like the most hard line there could be, black, white, but then they call it color. That's not what color is, because if you do admit color, then you have to look at the whole color scale. And when you do that, you'll see that all human beings are in a relatively tiny little sliver range of that whole color spectrum, where, oh wow, we're actually almost identical in the grand scheme of things. There are no green human beings, or yellow, or orange, or red, or blue. We have different shades. Melatonin. It goes from like the whitest, as we would say, quote unquote whitest, which you should say the lightest skin, because there's no such thing as white or black skin. I was going to say, if your skin is black, it's necrotic, and that means rotting flesh, like gangrene, and you're going to lose that limb and die if you don't treat it. It's like either it's burned and it's carbonized from fire and burning, and that's why it's black. Or if your skin turns white, it might be that you're already like Caucasian, and you have, if you go in the water too much, in your skin, you get like bathtub toes and everything, fingers. Even that is not white. There's no white in the human body. I think maybe your eyeball, but even that is not. I don't think it's white. I think there is some color in there, some saturation, some hue, some pigmentation, because white and black and white are not colors. Black is the absence of all light. If there is zero light, that is black. Pure black is no color. In the spectrum of light is where color is. When you mix all of the colors, every single color that exists, you get white. These things do not describe humans. They need to stop. But I can understand my point before. I can understand the dynamic still between, if you want to say, black and white people. We've come so far, and there are so many people who are not racist, who don't think about slavery days. But when you go more south and in urban areas where a lot of people who experience this, their grandparents experienced this, they're still here. The dynamic between slaves and slave owners, when slavery was a perfectly fine thing back in the day, which was all around the world. In America, it wasn't even the worst. By far, it wasn't even close to the worst. There were way more extreme, savage slave owners. And that was the way of the world. That doesn't excuse the behavior, but it just was the way that people did things. It's like if in the future there were no more guns ever, no more murder. But then some people were like, yeah, like black people used to like be killing people with guns all the time. And it's like, it's like, yeah, American white men had slaves. It's like, well, no, everybody did that. Why are you isolating that one thing? It doesn't make sense. Well, because you have a narrative and an agenda, and you want to sway people's opinions and propagandize their thoughts. This is my point. You want to convince them that you're trying to empower it, and there's other people that just perpetuate it. And the thing is that dynamic has never gone away. It is still active. Obviously, there are not plantations with like white slave owners and black slaves picking cotton today in America. That isn't a thing. But you remove that, and then you go generations down the line. Now, even if all of those people are dead and gone, and those kids have had other kids, if you think about each day that passed during the time of slavery as it was slowly going away, we outlawed it. As time is going on, people are existing on an analog progression forward. We live in an analog mindset. We're going continuously forward, always, day to day to day to day. Everything connects together. In history, we can break it apart into chunks and chapters, but that's not the way the world works. It wasn't just, oh, there was slavery, then there wasn't. There were a bunch of people, like, imagine how it must have been to be a slave and be afraid of, like, white people back then. Or imagine what it must have been to be a white person, having them, how do you own a human being? It's so fucked up. Imagine being any other race. There were black tribes that had black slaves and black tribes that had white slaves. And I'm just saying, imagine being back in that time, and this dynamic, this direct, distinct, current day event is continuing to go on. Now, you have a kid, and the kid is growing up and is still part of that era as it's slowly dying out. So they're experiencing it. It's trickling away. All the way up into the 70s, there was still KKK and all this shit, like, out in the open. There was all kind of crazy shit happening. But it doesn't just magically disappear, and it's like, oh, well, we're in the 2020s now, and that was before. Now there's like a hard line between then and now. No. The dynamic between slaves and slave owners in America has never gone away. There is still racial tension from those days, directly connecting to today. We aren't in a different time. Like if you were in a different city and that city is a separate physical location from the other city. The past doesn't work that way. We are analog in our mindset, in our view of the world. It's still alive and well. That racism is still there. And people, some external people from our country who want to destroy us, here's the thing. We can't be destroyed physically. That can't happen. That's not possible. You can't destroy the United States Army. I was saying this before, even if you took the world's largest superpowers, it can't happen. We would destroy so much. There would be not much left of them. It would be just endless, endless, endless war. We would gain the most resources and land, like in the game of Risk. We have bases everywhere. No one has army bases like the United States. The United States Army, military complex runs the world, like at the end of the day. And, well, the people who really run the world, obviously catering to the war machine and profiting that to sell the deep state stuff while they canceled Alex Jones eventually, where they fired Tucker Carlson, starts talking about all this, Joe Rogan, a lot of other people. They want to create, so whoever wants to do this, they can't destroy us physically. It can't happen. It would never happen. Even if Great Britain, China, Russia, everyone in the world was against just the United States, we would take out so much of those motherfuckers. Whoever's trying to kill us would be the motherfuckers. I don't think the whole world are motherfuckers, just to be clear. I love people if they're good people. I still got love for people if they're evil, but they're being a virus. I don't know what to do about the virus. I can't say like, oh, we need to care for them. I can't care for a virus. Like administer care to them, and like I'm not gonna cuddle Hitler. I'm just not. Okay, so but I'm not gonna be evil. If you be evil, you be the thing you are supposed to not be, the thing you're supposed to fight. Someone somewhere wants to destroy us. You can't do it physically. If you launched everything at us, we have a plan for that. If you destroyed certain things, we have a plan for that. We got so much shit built up, we could last for hundreds of years. Hundreds and hundreds of years. No one else could do that. If we wanted to, we could, by force, probably take the whole world. I don't think that would ever be anyone's mission or goal. I think we've always had enough good leaders who've prevented any insanity like that from happening. That's why we have the Constitution. That's why we have our independence. Happy Independence Day just passed, which Independence Day is on the 4th of July, people. The holiday is not the 4th. The holiday is Independence Day, because we gained our independence from people who were fucking, not good to us. And we've built something undestroyable. You can't take us. And luckily, we have our Constitution and the way that our country was formed, because it's designed to prevent that exact kind of corruption. It's supposed to be. Well, it is designed that way. It's supposed to work that way. We're supposed to rise up as a people and militia if the shit that's happening now happens, but people aren't, is the thing. And, these outside forces probably they realize that. They're playing off that advantage. And so you think of this propaganda, generational propaganda warfare. Destroy the people, limit our ability to reproduce, if you get rid of the sexes. You have people all fighting together, weaken the military, corrupt the judicial systems, the departments of justice and all that. Get these ideas into there, start employing eugenics against those people, destroying them. It's basically genocide. So start killing the Americans using propaganda with ideas, and then start to create multi-billion-dollar industries so that'll incentivize like pharmaceutical companies and doctors in the medical industry to play along. Yeah. So then all of a sudden, wow, what a handy, convenient, strange coincidence. There's like a pandemic and a virus that's going to kill everyone. We were hit pretty hard, supposedly, but what really hit us hard was the separation between the people. So how do you destroy what's undestroyable physically? You break it apart from the inside. If I start removing components of your engine, or I sabotage one or two key things, it's going to probably break and destroy. Maybe I can't access those things, but if I fuck with the oil and I fuck with the transmission fluid and I fuck around with the fucking coolant and like, everything, eventually that whole thing is going to like blow up, get destroyed. Then there will be people who are like sabotaging the tires. So even if you fix the engine, it's like fucked, and they start stripping the parts. That's what's happened. So America is like up on cinder blocks in a ghetto. They strip the tires and the wheels are gone. And now they're fucking trying to dismantle the engine. Like we're on our last legs, basically. If we get some tires on that bitch again and fortify the outside and guard the site, we could get the engine running again and get the fuck out of there. But if we just leave it like this, everything's gonna be gone. It's like windows smashed out, everything stripped, the interior, stereo, all this, computers and like catalytic converters. It'll be a shell of a car, and there'll be the only thing you can do with that is put it to the junkyard. It's never going to come back, not that one. So what they established here was supposed to be fighting against all this, but now so we're getting attacked, and it's this racial division. It's really been amplified. So instead of just teaching and accentuating this to new generations like mine, the one before me, the couple after me, now there's a whole bunch of different people being raised to all hate different other groups. This is my point. Everything is boiling down to causing the American people to all hate each other in different specific ways. And it has gone so out of control that you saw the destruction that happened on several occasions. We're also, as a people, as an American people, all of us, regardless of your ancestors' background, we are being attacked by bad actors in the government. People who have gotten in there who shouldn't be in there. And so we need to band together. We need to look past any differences, not just because it's the right thing to do, because our fucking actual country, whether you want to be a patriot or not, or care, you will care if it's gone, and we're all getting shipped out to somewhere, or if the streets are getting overrun. It's not going to be fun. So we need to get together, not separate. Something is interfering and sabotaging us. And I think it goes even deeper than that too. Infrastructure, other things, all those crashes, spills, trying to hack our systems into overdrive now, the attacks. Bigger ones. And meanwhile, they want to act like we aren't at war, but just keep consuming. And then we have all these distractions happening. The media is playing on the side of the negative things that are happening to us. They aren't on our side. If we don't start viewing our country, our world we live in right now, our little universe, USA, like your land, your house, your home, you walk down the street, we take this for granted our whole life, it's going to be worse than the revolutionary days. But for us, we'll be fucked, a lot of us. So, some stuff to think about for you. Let's go, Brandon.